let's begin with our question and answer session. The first question I'd like to present to you is the following. You mentioned that cross-cultural research reveals universal aspects of communication. Why is it so intuitive that differences are bigger between cultures than within them?
It is intuitive, I think, because differences tend to stand out more than similarities. The fact that we all have greeting rituals does not stand out as much as the differences. In the US, we shake hands and the Japanese bow. That seems different, but the functions are largely the same. To establish a basis for mutual trust for continued interaction.
Okay, good. Thank you. Another question is, you distinguish stimulus generalization from individuation. Is it always more competent to strive toward individuation?
No. Generalizations and stereotyping are natural ways in which we reduce our uncertainty in context of limited information. Generalizations are fairly efficient most of the time. When we don't know something about someone, generalizations from limited information tend to be the best bet, until such time that interaction can reveal more individualized understanding of someone, which then can lead to more adapted and competent communication.
Oh, thank you again. Another question. You mentioned that we judge people's communication by its appropriateness and effectiveness. How compatible are those two evaluations?
A good question, because they interact in complex ways. A person may communicate appropriately but ineffectively, which we might consider a sufficing style of interaction. They're not doing anything wrong, but they're not getting much out of the interaction. In contrast, a person can communicate inappropriately but effectively, perhaps through coercion or manipulation. We might characterize this person's communication by a maximizing style. Clearly, in most circumstances, it's best to communicate in ways that maintain the integrity of the context and the relationship, which is appropriate, as well as achieve relatively rewarding outcomes. This style we might refer to not only as competent, but as optimizing. Some kinds of contexts tend to pit the criteria against one another. For example, conflicts tend to uniquely make it difficult to be both appropriate and effective.
Another question. If we tend not to perceive our interactions similarly across interactants, how can we hope to accurately read their feedback to communicate better?
Well, the first step is recognition that we don't experience the same meanings and perceptions they do. This is known as a transparency illusion. We think we communicate more information more accurately than we actually do. This recognition can lead to further steps of active listening, paraphrasing what someone said to check that the meaning was accurately understood, and developing a habit of using meta-communication. That is, communication about communication, such as, when you said later, about how much later did you mean?
Thanks. With regard to generational communication, we now have new media technologies that are innovative. How much have they changed communication in general?
That could be an entirely new module, and many of the changes we can describe today will be different within a decade. A preliminary answer, however, is that the historical arc of communication technology is one of compressing time and space, both in a physical sense and a social sense. We can interact with more people more rapidly from farther distance than ever before. At the same time, we have increasingly progressed through several stages in which each successive stage remains, but a new set of options emerge. from the old. From a one-to-one to a one-to-many to what is now a many-to-many. After a century of mass communication in which a small number of content providers communicated en masse to everyone else, now any individual can produce communication content, alter it, and distribute it to one or to millions.
Thank you for your excellent questions and responses, but we've run out of time.